There are sounds that don't come from outside. They are inner echoes, like footsteps in a corridor that doesn't exist, at least not in this world. Sometimes they emerge in the middle of the night, when the silence is so dense it feels like you can hear yourself. Other times, they appear in the simple act of opening a door, catching a scent, hearing an ordinary phrase. And then, something ignites. A memory that isn't a memory. An emotion without a cause. He, or she, has lived this way for as long as they can remember. Growing up with the strange impression of having known certain places long before ever setting foot in them. A square in a foreign city, whose stones felt familiar beneath their feet. An exchanged glance with a stranger, carrying the same tenderness and the same pain as someone lost in time. They weren't dreams. They weren't daydreams. They were fragments, tiny shards of stories that didn't fit into the straight line of an ordinary life. How do you explain missing a scent that no longer exists? Or crying at a piece of music from centuries ago, as if it had been written for you? Maybe these aren't imagined memories. Maybe they are remnants, seeds fallen from ancient trees you yourself planted in other eras. And the more you try to ignore them, the closer these echoes draw, like persistent waves striking the same stone. But what if these echoes aren't just shadows of the past? What if, one day, they became stronger than the very life you're living now? Being born is not a beginning. It's a continuation. It's like crossing a river you already know. Only this time, the banks are different. That first breath of air in your lungs is not the start of anything. It's merely the adjustment to a new shape, a new vessel for a consciousness that has already walked through worlds we don't dare to imagine. There's something in the skin, in the breath, in the weight of the hands, as if the soul feels estranged from the very body it inhabits during its first years. Children who look around with eyes that seem older than the time they've lived. Gazes that carry both weariness and wisdom at once. The body is new, but the inner dwelling that has been inhabited before by other names, other voices, other destinies. It's as if every birth were a new house built upon the invisible foundations of ancient homes. Sometimes, this silent memory shows itself in gestures no one ever taught you. A particular way of holding cutlery, of forming a letter on paper, of pronouncing a foreign word as if it were your mother tongue. Other times, it appears as the feeling of being just passing through, as if that city, that country, that family were only temporary stops on a train that never stays for long. But there comes a moment when this awareness shifts from subtle to undeniable. It's when something awakens and you feel, with every fiber of your being, that this is not the first time you've inhabited a body. And in that moment, an inevitable question begins to echo. If this body is not my first home, how many houses, how many faces, how many stories still live within me? Not all scars are on the skin. Some hide in silence. Others in the automatic reflexes that shape our lives without us even noticing. There are those who fear the sea, despite never having drowned. Those who tremble at great heights, though they've never fallen. Those who feel a sudden chill upon hearing the crack of wood, as if it were the distant echo of a moment that doesn't belong to this life. These are invisible marks, imprinted on the most delicate matter of all, the soul. And they reveal themselves not only through fear, they also appear as gifts. The pianist who never studied, yet plays as if conversing with each note like an old friend. The child who draws ancient symbols found in no modern book. The woman who sews as though repeating a gesture learned centuries ago, in a room lit only by candles. Perhaps you, too, carry an inexplicable talent, or a heaviness you cannot trace back to its source. These are energetic inheritances, fragments of other existences that cross the veil and take root in the present life. But what if these marks weren't only beautiful memories or ancient wounds? What if, in some cases, they were debts? Energy that must be repaid, actions that demand closure, stories that refuse to remain unfinished. Because not every ancient memory returns to inspire us. Some come back to collect what is owed. There are encounters that defy logic, eyes that meet for the first time, yet somehow already know each other. A tightening in the chest, an electric charge across the skin, a sensation of reunion. Some call it destiny, others chance. But the soul knows, this is not the first time. It's as if, behind every face, there were a story already lived in other settings. A silent pact that spans centuries, replaying roles with small variations, but always with the same essence. Loves that begin with unusual intensity, as if trying to make up for lost time. Enmities that arise without any apparent reason, carrying grudges that were never resolved. Families that form and reunite, repeating dynamics that seem predestined. It's the invisible web that keeps certain souls connected, even when they change names, bodies, or places in the world. And this web knows no distance or death. It stretches through time like a thread of light or of shadow, linking two consciousnesses in the same cycle. But there is a hidden side to these reunions, repetition. Because until the lesson is learned, the plot continues. And sometimes, the bond that unites also imprisons. Some embraces bring comfort. Others, even wrapped in love, carry the weight of an ancient chain. And when the cycle cannot be broken, the soul begins to feel the burden of stories it no longer knows how to end. There are nights when sleep is not rest. It becomes an endless corridor lined with half-open doors. Behind each one, fragments of scenes you can't tell if they are dreams or memories. Some souls carry wounds so ancient they no longer remember the exact moment they were opened. But the pain remains. Not in the body, in the essence. It's a silent weight, like a book forgotten on the back of a shelf, yet still influencing the entire library. Recurring nightmares. Scenes that replay, always with the same faces and places that never existed in this life. Sudden sensations of being in another time, another skin, another story, all while the body remains still. And in daily life, this invisible baggage begins to seep through. Fears that limit choices. Emotional cycles that repeat as if written by an unseen hand. Intense reactions to small situations, as if they carry the echo of something much greater. The weight of these untold stories is that, without realizing it, the soul lives not only in the present but also in the unresolved memories of other lives. And every step in the now is influenced by ghosts that have no name, yet have a voice. But what if it were possible to go back? If there were a way to visit the exact moment where it all began? A portal to cross through time and find the first page of that story? Some swear they have crossed them, not with the body, but with something that has no weight or form. These portals are not on any map. They have no keys, no guardians, no signposts. They open at the right moment, almost always when the mind is distracted or in deep silence. It might happen during a meditation so intense that time dissolves, and you feel as though you're looking at yourself from afar. Or in the moment between wakefulness and sleep, when strange images appear with a clarity too sharp to be mere dreams. Or in that instant when life nearly slips away and everything around is swallowed by a tunnel of light. They are portals that don't lead to another place, but to another when. And upon crossing them, the soul sees scenes from past lives as if leafing through a forgotten album. Familiar faces with different names. Cities whose streets you walk with the intimacy of someone who was born there. Scents, voices, and pains that don't belong to the present, yet feel real enough to make your heart race. In those moments, we understand that the timeline is only a comforting illusion. Everything happens. The past is not behind, the future is not ahead. Both coexist, waiting to be accessed. But what the soul finds in these portals is not always gentle. Some memories shine like ancient gold. Others burn like red-hot iron. And sometimes, what you see forever changes the way you walk through the life you live now. There is a place that exists on no map. A suspended space where there are no clocks, no seasons, not even the need to breathe. Their time does not flow, toits. Some describe it as a silent valley, bathed in a light that doesn't come from any sun. Others speak of a vast room whose walls seem to be made of liquid memory, reflecting every life the soul has ever lived. No matter its form, everyone who has been there feels the same thing. It is the point between an ending and a beginning. It is in this place that the soul rests after leaving a body, not as a passive respite, but as a meticulous review. Every gesture, every choice, every word, all is relived, not through sight, but through feeling. The pain you caused, the joy you sparked, the love you didn't know how to give, the love you didn't know how to receive. Spiritual guides, or older consciousnesses, approach, not to judge, but to remind. They reveal the invisible threads connecting one life to another, and how certain knots still await to be untied. Then comes the moment of decision. It is not an imposition, it is a silent pact with oneself. The soul chooses the setting, the era, the family, even certain inevitable encounters. Not as punishment, but as opportunity. Each incarnation is a chance to align what was once out of balance. And before diving into the next body, the soul knows it will carry fragments from previous lives. Some as a compass, others as a test. Nothing in the present is entirely new. Every choice, every instinct, every fear or desire carries particles of stories that did not begin in this life. Sometimes, it's a courage that appears out of nowhere, as if, deep down, the soul has already crossed far worse battles. Sometimes, it's an intense sensitivity to certain injustices, as if the wound were far too old to be explained only by what has been lived so far. These fragments are like invisible threads stitching together the current life. They influence the way we love, how we react to danger, how we see opportunities, and even how we handle silence. They shape talents, the gift to create, to teach, to heal, to protect. And they can also shape blockages, the fear of speaking, of trusting, of trying something new. They are not coincidences. They are memories in a latent state, acting like hidden programs deep within the consciousness. And what's most fascinating is that the soul does not carry fragments only from its own stories. It also brings impressions from others, people who crossed your path in different times and left marks so deep they became part of who you are. Nothing is by chance. The place you are today, the people around you, the challenges you face, all are the result of a fabric far older than this life. But there is a silent risk in this process. Because when the fragments become too heavy, the soul begins to forget that it is living a new chapter, and not an endless repetition of what has already been. The soul is like a traveler crossing deserts and oceans with an invisible suitcase. Inside it, it keeps rare jewels, lessons, affections, victories. But it also carries heavy stones, pain, guilt, unfulfilled promises. Over time, the baggage can grow so dense that the present begins to bend under its weight. Days lose their lightness. Choices stop being free and become conditioned by fears that have no face in this life. Some live as if they are always running from something they can't remember. Others, as if they are bound to a place or a person, even knowing that it keeps them from growing. This is the danger of getting lost in the fragments, turning the current life into an unconscious continuation of old stories, leaving no room for the new. When that happens, even love can become a prison, longing an addiction, memory a trap. But there's a secret few realize. You don't have to abandon who you were to fully live who you are. There is a path to free yourself without losing your essence. And that path begins the moment the soul decides to integrate everything it has ever lived. To integrate is not to forget. It is not to erase old stories or pretend the pain never existed. To integrate is to recognize each fragment as part of a greater mosaic, the design of your eternity. The soul is not made of isolated chapters. It is a circle that expands, absorbing every experience, every face, every emotion. What was once weakness can transform into strength. What was once a mistake can become wisdom. When you choose to look at the fragments without fear, something changes. Memories stop being chains and become compasses. Lost love turns into inspiration. A battle won in another era becomes silent courage for the now. At that point, past and present stop competing. They unite. And the soul understands it is not living a new life, but rather another expression of the same essence that has crossed oceans of time. The question then shifts from, what does my soul carry? To, what will I create with all that I already am? Because, in the end, everything you were, everything you are, and everything you will be already lives within you. Your soul is not made of beginnings and endings, but of circles that converge. By recognizing the fragments you carry, you cease to be a prisoner of the past and become the creator of your next chapter.